Good morning, dear fourth students. Moving on to your first lesson from the unit, lesson 1, which is going to be about numbers. What kind of numbers? Decimal numbers. Now, I need you to repeat after me. 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Now, after you repeat after me, I need now to say the number and I need you to point to the number. And after that, I will hold for a couple of seconds and then I will point to the number that I mentioned for you to check your answers. 30. This is 30. 50. 70. 100. Okay, again. 40. 60. 90. Okay, great. I hope you got all of your answers correct. Now, let's move here. Let me show you activity 1 again. We are still in activity 1, which is in page 6. This is activity 1, the one that we were doing just now. But I need now to practice writing the decimal numbers. Okay? I put a couple of numbers for you, but you have to finish up to 100. So let's practice writing the decimal numbers. Here we have which number? This one is 20. This is a 20. This number is 30. Let's practice. This one is 40. This one is 50. This is a practice writing the decimal numbers. I hope that you finish up to 60, 70, 80, up to 100. Now, moving on to activity number 2. Let me show it for you. This is activity number 2. Listen and say what's next. So, I will say the numbers and you have to finish all of the rest of the missing numbers. So, 1, 10, 20, 30, and then you have to name the number that is missing. 2, 30, 40, 50. Which number is missing? 3, 50, 60, 70. You have to guess it. 4, 70, 80, 90. Let me help you out here. 10, 20, 30, then it's 40. 40 comes after 30. 30, 40, 50, 60. 50, 60, 70, 80. 70, 80, 90, 100. So guys, before we move on to activity 3 here, you have to know the rule of there are, there is. So, to know this rule, look here. There is, there are. We use these expressions to tell the number of something. For example, there is one tree in the garden. or we use it to count the number of something. For example, there are 20 desks in the class. If you look here at the words is and are, these words come from verb to be. So verb to be is, are, am, and they are in the present tense, usually to show fact if they were main verbs and not linking verbs. We usually ask with the question, with the WH question, how many? To count the number of something, we usually ask how many. To ask about the number of something countable, countable nouns like desks, houses, iron barriers, like the ones that we have in the schoolyard. So let's practice the question and answering with there is, there are. How many windows are there in your room? There is one window in my room. You have to know that we use the verb is with singulars. So if I have one of something, like one window, one book, one desk, one pencil, I usually use is. If I ask how many pencils are there in the class and there was more than one pencil in the class, let's say plural amount of pencils, like more than 2 or 3, etc., etc., we answer with there are. There are 20 pencils in the class. So, is, the verb is usually used with singular, like one of that something, while are, the verb are, we usually use it with plurals. Let's say there are 20 pencils in the class. There are 30 students in the class. There are 20 or 40 cars in the yard or in the garage. So with the plural, we usually use are. Moving to the activity in your book here, activity 3, count and write, then compare with your friend. So moving on to activity 3, count and write, then compare with your friend. 1. There are. I wrote the answers for you. I hope that you write them in your book. So 1. There are 20 children in our class, for instance. Number 2. There are 30 boys. 3. There are 40 girls. 4. There are 50 chairs. 5. There are 60 desks. Number 6, and finally, there are 70 books. Thank you, fourth graders. Hope that you enjoyed your lesson.